Awesome. All right, it says it's recording. Awesome. Welcome. This is Sunday night, July 2nd, 2017. Welcome to the team call. We're excited to have you. Couple of things before we get started and chatting about Take the Stairs. I chatted with my sister this afternoon, well, actually this evening. She is en route to North Dakota and making amazing time. So they left at 6 o'clock this morning and they should actually be there within like the next 90 minutes, which is awesome. So kids are doing great and they're cooking with gas. So, but she wanted me to just touch on a few things and I had a couple things I wanted to add as well. So as we're starting up the new month, the challenge is out for the 10 and 10. So starting yesterday through July 10th, book and execute 10 activities. That's either a party or an overview done either in person or on Zoom. Each event activity will count as one of your 10. And then anybody that completes the 10, it's not an entry. It's not like a drawing this time for something. Everybody that completes it will go on a fun little spa experience with Missy and our National Vice President, ENVP Linda Hefner. So that sounds like a whole lot of fun because, I'm assuming it probably will include nails and toes and probably lunch, maybe. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. If not, and they ask me to plan it, I will plan it, but I think that's what's going to happen. So a lot of people commented that they were in on the Facebook team page. So as you're executing your appointments this week and into next week, please make sure that you're either remembering, if you can, to shoot a picture. I always forget. I'm going to set myself a reminder tomorrow for the one that I have and be like, take a picture. But anyway, so just post your progress on there so we can celebrate, cheer each other on. And it's always good to have a little healthy competition. Because I know the last time that we did it is I saw people getting up in like 6 and 7. I was like, holy crap, game on, let's get it going. So awesome. So everybody should be digging in and doing that. The other thing that I'm going to recommend is just as we start a new month, it's always a chance for us to kind of get refocused and restarted and kind of, not that we restart the cycle, but it just gives us a chance, as we say all the time, we take a breath, we don't take a break. So we just keep moving forward. It doesn't mean that the 2nd should look any different than the 28th or the 10th should look any different than the 15th. It's just consistent activity over time. And we kind of, as we've talked about before, we get in the car and we kind of sit in the driveway for like the first 5 days. And then we put it in reverse and we kind of like slowly back out of the driveway for the next 5 days. And then from day 10 to 20, we're just like cruising the neighborhood, looking for some people, seeing what we can do. Days 20 to 28, it's like, I might get on the expressway. And then days 29, 30, and if there's a 31, it's like the Autobahn. Now we're down. How much can I get done in the next 36 hours? So if you can try to not continue to repeat that cycle, it will keep your business a lot more balanced. And actually, I think it talks a lot about what we're going to talk about tonight is just that consistent effort over time will produce the results. So if you have not already, either tonight before you go to bed or tomorrow morning if you're an early riser, I would highly recommend that you take out a note card and it can just, well, this one is crunched up, but it can be a note card, it can be a piece of paper. But I would recommend on the note card or whatever you wanted to write it on, write down your 3 goals for July. And how I would recommend doing it is kind of in 3 buckets. I would recommend your activity goal. So like how many faces do you want to get in front of? And you can even break it down if you want to say you're going to do 4 personal parties and that would get you on an average in front of 20 people and then you're going to do 10 one-on-ones. That would get you to your 30. Or you can say like, I'm just going to get in front of 30 faces. Or I'm going to get in front of 40 faces. Or I'm going to get in front of 50 faces. Whatever that looks like for you and however you want to break it up. But I would write out an activity goal. And then the second is, the second 2 buckets are kind of results, but it's just something to push towards. And if we don't write it down, we don't know what we're going towards. So the second would be a volume goal. So maybe that's to go into qualification for district manager and get 2,500 or 3,000. Maybe it is to get your district manager bonus. Maybe it's to complete district. So maybe it's doing 2,500 to complete. Maybe it's to do 3 to complete. Maybe it's to do 5 so that you can get that bonus. Maybe it's to do 10 and go into qualification for area. All of those things are absolutely possible in a 30-day cycle. And so you just want to write it down so that you know what you're shooting for. And then the third thing that you want to write down is your sponsoring goal. So how many PCs are you going to sponsor this month? And if you want, sometimes what I'll do is I'll write down like a personal sponsoring goal and then like a team sponsoring goal. So in my personal business, I want to sponsor like 8 PCs and 2 consultants. In my team, so like if in my district or within my area, I want to sponsor 5 new consultants and 25 PCs. So just whatever those numbers look like for you. And if you're just a team of 1, then just do the whatever you want to personally commit to. And kind of it has to tie with the activity goal. So if you say I'm going to do like I'm going to sponsor like 8 new PCs and I'm going to find 2 new consultants, but I'm only going to get in front of 10 or 15 faces, that's probably not great math. So it's going to take more to get more. So I would write down those 3 things. I also sometimes like to write down like a personal growth goal, a personal development goal. Reading this book is a great thing, you know, so just committing to reading a chapter a week, or if it's reading 10 for 15 minutes every day, or it's listening to an audiobook, or I listen to a recorded like statements that I've recorded myself with my own voice saying like I am statements about myself. I listen to that every morning, usually twice. So whatever that looks like, you can write that on the card. And then I would recommend actually posting it in 3 places in your house. I have one set up in my bathroom. I have one set up on the window over my kitchen sink. And I have one on the mirror in my bedroom. So kind of places that I'm at throughout the day. I also actually have them posted in my office on the door that my closet door that my bed or my desk faces. But I have it in places that, I mean, in my office, I'm thinking about my business, but in the other places, I'm not necessarily not, so it catches my eye. So I would recommend posting those in the 3 places. So activity goal, volume goal, sponsoring goal, and then if you want to do a personal development goal. Now, if you've ever read anything of Tom Barrett's or Shad Helmstedter's, and I'm sure there's others, goals are written in pen and dates are written in pencil. Just meaning like it's okay if at the end of July you're like, I only got in front of 35 faces and I want to get in front of 40, or I wanted to sponsor 8 PCs and I only sponsored 6. Well, instead of saying only, how about you're like, heck, I sponsored 6 PCs. Last month I sponsored 2. That's amazing. Like that's triple growth. So don't look at the scarcity, look at the abundance. Look at what progress you've made instead of feeling like you didn't make the goal, because we want to set the bar high. And I know Miss has said this several times on the call, but if you write out a goal and you can absolutely see exactly how you're going to get there, then the goal is not big enough. Nowhere near big enough. You should write it down, and then it should cause like a little bit of a lump in your throat, and you're like, that scares me. But that's okay, because it's doable if we, as we talked about last week, and as we talked about in the book, we just do what we say we're going to do. And that's the part that think it, speak it, act it, happens. So if we don't even think it, we can't speak it, and we can't write it down. So just write it down and then think it, speak it, act it, it'll happen. Cool? All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the goal card, what you should have on it, what that should look like? Any questions? Clear as mud, clear as the blue sky, clear, clear, clear. All right, well, awesome. Well, then I'm going to turn it over to Miss Shawna. I'm super excited. I actually just read this chapter this afternoon for the, I don't know, 2nd time or something. This one is actually my favorite chapter. I think Miss said last week that the last one was her favorite, but this one's my favorite. So, and if you saw the picture on about the team call on the Facebook page, that's actually a picture from our farm. So I was thinking, like, I could post a picture about farming. So I was looking for a picture, and that one I found on Facebook from several harvests ago. We were going to go. There's several harvests ago. We were going to combine some soybeans. So yeah. Anyway, that's all I got to say. Shawna, it's all you.
Thank you. Yeah, when the chapter started out talking about farming, I was like, well, Tara and Missy probably would have been the better ones to start.
No. It's all right. I'll still contribute, I promise.
Well, I hate to disappoint, but there's nothing new with what I'm going to be talking about tonight. I actually love that Missy asked me to talk tonight, because something she doesn't necessarily know about me is that I am a very detailed scheduler. I come from a very long line of list makers, and my husband even teases me that I have a list for my list, which is sometimes very true, I have to admit. I look at schedule making like this. I have one life to live the way I want to live it, and I want to do so intentionally. I want to achieve my goals, what I want to achieve. There's no do-overs, and I don't want to put that control in the hands of anybody else, or just, kind of sit along the sidelines and, let things happen. I want to be the one making the choice to be in activity. So while there's a ton of benefits that scheduling can make in your personal life, tonight we're just going to kind of talk about how it can affect your business. I recently listened to a SoundCloud by EMVP Janet Elliott called Pushing Through the Fog and the Fears, How to Get Your Business on Track. I'm just going to draw a lot of tonight's information through that call. So Janet really referred to a life without a schedule, like having a life full of fog, and kind of going through those moments. People in that situation, through the fog, you can't see what's around the corner, or you can't see what's on the horizon for sure. And when we're in those moments of life where it seems really foggy and we can't get our bearings down, we need to act like a pilot. One of our dear friends, his name is Adam, he's a pilot and been a pilot for years. And when he's in the air in a patch of fog, he doesn't freak out, as tempting as that may be. He simply does what he's been trained to do, and he pushes forward, and he trusts the instruments and the processes in place to simply navigate through the fog. In Janet's SoundCloud that she talked about 3 principles of network marketing and how our schedule kind of plays into that. The first is with consistent effort. So we have our next 10-day Shape Challenge coming up on the 5th, and we have a system in place to have people make healthy choices and behaviors, right? So think about that. If you have someone who comes into your business and wants to lose 10 pounds, you can give them 2 options, right? The first is that they can eat healthy and consistently for 10 days and exercise regularly, or they can continue to eat whatever they want the first 9 days and then fast on the 10th day, run 5 miles and lift weights for 2 hours, right? So what strategy would you recommend there? The consistent effort, or kind of sprinting through it on the 10th day? I mean, that answer is not hard, right? It wouldn't make sense for us to recommend that. And that's kind of how it is with the principle of consistent effort. It's not hard to understand as a concept. It makes sense on paper, but it can be very, very hard to apply sometimes. We have to give chunks of our time to our business. The success that we have, the success that Missy's had, that our MVP, our EMVP has had, that hasn't been built overnight. Someone doesn't get to regen just because they had 40,000 sale in one day. It comes from the little quiet moments that are done every day that oftentimes nobody sees except for us. So I want you to take a look at your calendar, especially since we're in the beginning of the month, and just look at what's on it. What's missing from it? How are you working your business? Are you working it in one sprint on the 10th day, kind of like what Tara was talking about, where in the very end you're getting in the Autobahn and just, working it as hard as you can for just a few days, or are you working it consistently? When I started my business, Missy really told me that the business was built in 2-minute increments of courage. The 2 minutes where you make a phone call, you ask somebody to host a party for you. The time where you have that 2 minutes and you ask somebody to go out for a coffee appointment with you. And it comes down to that extra follow-up. And a lot of times, I know for me, especially when I started, I wasn't really clear on how effective that can be. But when you take that time to add it up, it really creates a focus, and it drives your character presenting your very best customer service. And that's really why we as a business have such a high reorder rate. It helps build your business, it helps build your skill, it helps build your whole belief in it, and it helps build your team as well. You have to be consistent, and you have to make time for your business. Network marketing, is not dealt with folks who have gaps in their schedules, who are just waiting for those gaps to be filled. It's about working a little here and a little there into the nooks and crannies of our lives. So we were able to go to Churchill Downs last weekend. We had an absolute blast. Our oldest, Zachary, was actually chosen to be in the horse derby out on the turf track. He was super excited about that. But while we were waiting, we got to go down against the rail and watch the horses cross the finish line along the races. And I don't know how many of y'all have been up close and personal with a racehorse, a thoroughbred, but they're full of muscle, they're lean, they are super fast, but they are built for sprints. And as glitzy as that may be, and as tempting as it may be to be more like a racehorse, we really need to be more like a pack horse. And the reason why is because those horses, they've got more of a quiet strength around them. They have patience, they have stamina. So what happens is that they keep going. They are consistent. They do the hard work over and over, and they keep going. And that's our business. It's the hard work consistently. Our RVP Missy, she's a pack horse. She's not letting the sunny days or the rains or, even a drive up to see her family or cancellation or whatever distract her from her goals. If you have someone who cancels on you, don't give them the ability to change your goal. That's something that only you can do. Don't give that power to anybody else. The second principle of network marketing that she talked about was duplication. So you've all heard the saying that it's easier to have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of your own personal effort. But do you really know what that looks like? Arbonne, we have a simple model for success, and that we simply find people who have dreams and goals, and we share Arbonne with them, and we repeat that cycle, right? That's it, no matter how you do it. So are you telling people to do that on your team while you sit back? Or are you charging the way yourself? When you understand that you need to sell, sponsor, and repeat each month, then you're going to start to see the change in your business, and you're going to start to change your life both financially, and you're starting to start to see that time freedom as well. So about 80% of your time should be focused on your own personal business and building it up, while additional 20% should be spent on developing your team. So don't flip-flop that away and start to get manageritis. Also, don't lower the bar for yourself for getting in front of a minimum of 30 faces each month. No one gets to national vice president or region by just sitting in front of 5 faces in a month. Success comes from finding people to teach and train to do what we do, that find others that teach and train others to do what we do, and they still find others, so it's that continual cycle. The more successful that we duplicate ourselves in the process, the stronger our business actually becomes. So the third and final principle that she talked about was with our time. So you have to give your business enough time. When was the last time you started like a home project or a new recipe that you've not made before, and once you got into it, you started thinking, oh, this is a lot harder. It's going to take a lot longer than I was thinking. I'm very guilty of doing that a lot. And that's kind of what our business is like. You need to learn to be patient, you settle in and take the long view and stay on task. Easy to understand, but it is so hard to do sometimes because we have this work expectation and serious time distortion in our society. We live in a time where we expect instant gratification. It can be hard to be patient. In the book Go Pro by Eric Worre, it says that sometimes people start a business and they think, man, if I can just find that one consultant, it'll change everything. It'll be like a lottery ticket where you just sit back and do nothing. And that's not really how this business works. If a business isn't growing as fast as you think, and you don't account for the learning curve, which is different for everybody, you just have to give it enough time. If your business is going to grow over time, you have to put that time in daily and weekly, not just in a sprint at the end of the month. And it doesn't really matter how long somebody's been in the business. It matters how many hours that you've actually logged during that time. So I'll go back to the example, of my pilot friend. It doesn't really matter if the pilot on my last flight has been a pilot for 20 years if he's only flown for 1 month of those 20 years, right? Pilots carry a logbook, and that's how they kind of get promoted, if you will, throughout the ranks. With that logbook, that's something that we need to have where we track what we're doing for our business and how many people we're talking to. The time and months and years means nothing if you've done nothing. In Arbonne, there's only one thing that counts as logged hours, and that's actually showing our products. And it includes our best product, which is our opportunity. You need to be leading with that and sharing it with everybody. Our logged hours, and I know I can be guilty of this sometimes, but it does not include sending emails, checking Facebook, or checking our dashboard on close day every 5 minutes to see what our team QV is. Person-to-person business, face-to-face business, and we need to be logging that flight time. So you do it steadily and consistently so that your business increases over time. And that's kind of your checklist. Are you doing it consistently? Or are you being sporadic in your business? Is your business duplicating? Do you understand how to duplicate it? And are you doing it? What's keeping you from doing more? Is it time? Is it skill? Is it belief? Because that's something that we can help with. So you're not here in this team by accident. You're here for a reason. Look at your last month and either all that you did or all that you didn't do. And kind of use it as a springboard to know that you can hit those accomplishments again. And with consistency, you can even do more. So don't get to the end of the month and think, oh man, if I would have done more in the first 5-10 days, maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. But don't have that regret. If a host cancels on you, and believe me, you cancel on everybody. Don't let that bring you down. Call that host and just say, you know, you and I, we have that time set apart. You know, I'm still here. I still love to come over. We can share that coffee cake you made or whatever. Just let me love on you for a little bit and share something I really think would be of interest to you. Turn that workshop or that event into a one-on-one. We'll put value into your product, and she might be more inclined to rebook with you. So you need to play hard and just stay focused in order to get to your destination. This is something that Janet Elliott wrote that I really liked, and I'll just read it real quick. She said, Arbonne isn't about skincare, it's about loving the skin you're in. It's not about makeup, it's about discovering your makeup. It's not about weight loss, it's about losing some of the weight of the world. It's not about detox, it's about cleansing your mind and soul of toxic thoughts and habits and behaviors. What we offer is not about scented creams, it's about living life and recognizing how sweet it really can be. So that's just something I really loved. So if you focus on the system, the uncertainty goes away. If you get off track and you have a party cancel or one-on-one show up, let it go. Change your perspective and what you're focusing on. Just go step by step and be consistent. So that's just what I wanted to share today. I hope that was helpful to some of you all. But we'll get on to the book. I'd love to hear if there was something in particular that stuck out to somebody, something that has really helped you all throughout the week, or something that you just wanted to share with everybody.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think the biggest aha moment for me, and this was probably one of my favorites as well, chapters, but I think was about work-life balance, because we hear that all the time. Oh, it's work-life balance, especially when you're all of a sudden have, kids and career and, lots of people to take care of, but the fact that it's a complete myth and that you really just kind of, the seasons of your life kind of ebb and flow. So I think that was like a big aha moment, because I can, in obviously Missy and I see Tara and I see those that, when they all of a sudden they have that big goal that they're going after in the next couple months, being able to just say, okay, so maybe, scheduling an extra trip to my in-laws this month is probably not the best thing. Maybe I just push it off a couple weeks in order to get more activity in and things like that. Not looking at that I'm going to stop my life for a long period of time, but at least when I have that goal, I can kind of really focus on that. So I thought that was really good, that it's just a time that you're in for a little bit, but if you go hard at it for a bit, and then, then it just makes it easier than just kind of dabbling for long periods of time and wasting time. I'm all about scheduling the rocks. I love the rock analogy. And so I had to set time aside for my husband, because he knows every evening or Friday night. I mean, it was when I left Tara's house, I think we had sat for 6 hours making calls and text, catch up. But I can see how that really helps and benefits, is scheduling that time and putting that as a rock. So those two principles, I think, were, for me, helped. I'd heard the rock scenario before, but it was good to hear it again and actually put it on paper, because my life, like you, Shawna, is very scheduled. You know, I have work time at this time, and I would kind of just go, every evening was kind of loosey-goosey. If I had it, great, but I didn't say, okay, for this hour, I'm going to put out 30 texts. And for this hour, I'm going to do this. And that has really made a big difference in the last 2 months. So it works. It just, a matter of applying it. Imagine that. Someone else has done this before.
I think it's that thing we talk about, like, it doesn't work. Do you have proof? Well, no, I didn't do it.
Right. And it's like when you finally, and it's really just, as I say, it's what's between your own ears. It's like when you get over yourself and think that everyone thinks that they have a better path, or, I'm going to do this, but not that. It's like the recipe is the recipe. And so I either have to make time for the recipe, or I have to accept that I'm not going to be a cook at all.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there was, I loved what you shared, Lori. There was a lot in kind of pages 124 through 128. That was like, I was just like, it's always so funny when I get to read a book. There was another book Melissa and I were actually reading at the same time, and there was a chapter in there, and I took it over to her house one day because I think I was going to watch the girls when she was going to go pick up the other girls from school. And I walked in with my highlighter and I said, I think I did the wrong thing in this chapter, and I should have just started highlighting the things that I shouldn't have highlighted. It would have been less than the things that I'm like, well, I just started squaring off things. But for me, the thing that when he just said that the law of the harvest says that focused effort is amplified by appropriate timing and regimented routine, I thought that, it almost seems to me that, like, I like things that are powerful. Like, I like power. The gym that I go to has endurance days and strength days and power days. And power is just like explosive, like jumping and that type of thing. And that's fun to me, like just loading and then exploding. And so on the next page, on page 125, he just says the simple take the stair. This is the thing that I think resonated most with me, is the simple take the stair solution to the problem is not doing everything that we can do in a day, but rather to do everything we should do in a day. And I love lists. I love checking things off. But what I have realized is which is something I tell my fitness clients constantly. Like I said, if there's one thing that you will hear me say over and over and over and over and over again, is I don't care how many you can do. I want each one to be perfect. So to me, it's about the quality, not the quantity. And so it's sitting down at the end of that day and saying, kind of like at the very end when the guy just said, like, he charts like how many hours he spent on his activities, so he's just bucketed them with the priorities. And so, it's not about, did I get my desk cleaned, and did I get my bank errand run, and did I make certain amount of phone calls or whatever I needed to do. But did I do the things that were important? Did I do those rock activities? Because if I'm not doing those, then it doesn't matter what else I'm doing, because I'm just going to continue to be on the hamster wheel of doing those things, instead of saying, like, I don't love a dirty house, and I live by myself, so my house doesn't really ever get dirty. But like, I find myself sometimes like starting to clean up, and I'm like, no one is coming. Like, nobody's going to see it except for you. So you don't have to put this, like, you don't have to put the dishes away right now. Like, go do your business. And at 10 o'clock when everyone else is sleeping, like, then you can do it. And he just says that at that last paragraph of this first half of page 126, he just says balance should mean appropriate time spent on critical priorities. And that's where the balance should be. The balance should be those critical things. And I think we've talked about it actually, maybe on one of the previous calls, just to me, it's about the balance of, like, how much time am I spending out on new connections? How much time am I spending up on following up on people who are in process? How much time am I spending on, just customer care calls or getting out samples or just different things like that? How much time am I spending on personal development? Like, how much am I reading? How much am I listening? And then he just ends page 127 was saying, when we are aware of the season we are in and focused on maximizing the results of that season, we have natural clarity about our priorities, and as a byproduct, we get amplified synergy of our results. And so to me, I just realized, actually, that was a new highlight today when I was reading it, is that if I am aware of the season that I'm in and my focus is on maximizing the results of that season, then it's not difficult to find out what I should be doing, like where my activity should be, because it's just a byproduct of that amplified synergy. It's just understanding, like, at the end of the year, I want a white Mercedes-Benz in my driveway. Like, what is it going to take to make that happen? And there's times where I don't get to do some of the fun stuff, you know, because you just make sacrifices. And at the end of the day, that's okay. So yeah, that was, to me, the most resounding, was just what's the most effective thing, or what's the thing that's going to give me the most bang for my buck that I should be doing today versus how much can I get done today.
I love what you said about the fun stuff too, because fun is a byproduct of getting effective results in the other fundamental areas, which I thought was really good. Yeah. A lot of times,
Shawna, say that last part again. You faded off. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, no problem. I think a lot of times we focus on the fun and how much we can squeeze into a day instead of focusing on main priorities.
Right. I also, one of the other things I highlighted was at the, I think it was the same guy that, I'm trying to look back on his story. It might have been the first, it was the first case study where the guy was the real estate agent, and how he just talked about chunking out his time. But he just said at the end, he said, overall, Chad was able to achieve greater results in all areas of his life by imbalancing and fully dedicating his attention and energy to one thing for one short mini harvest season during the day. In the midst of all of this, his favorite thing to say is, "It's a privilege, not a sacrifice, to pay the price for my dreams." And I was like, oh, yes, it is. It is a privilege, but it really is and I think when you change your perspective that way, like, it makes the work easier, you know? Like, I'm always astounded, I'm always astounded at how much activity, like how many texts I can send out and how many phone calls I can make, like, in the last 48 hours of the month. Like, it's ridiculous. You know, like on Friday I had an appointment, and I'm sitting at the appointment and I'm like, you've got to let me go. Like, I gotta get back on my phone, you know? And I was like, and I'd look up and I was like, it can't be noon. I have too much to do. And I was like, it can't be 4. Yeah. You know? And then, you know, today it's the 2nd, and I'm like, it's really nice outside. Like, oh, I want to go like lay out in the sun, and it's the 2nd, like Sunday. I deserve to have time to rest. I worked really hard on Friday, you know, and it's just, as you said, Lori, it's that battle that's like constantly there.
I know you're talking about highlighting big chunks of the book and how it can be easier to highlight the things that weren't as significant to you. I felt that way on page 147 through the end. I think I've definitely highlighted more than is not highlighted. I made some notes on it about when you get off schedule, because I've definitely been that way here recently. He said, take pride controlling the activities within your power. Let go of worry and fear attached to the results that are not. Today's work turns into next week's success. Success breeds success. Then he started talking about the slinky and about how the slinky requires you to put it in motion. It doesn't do anything if it's just sitting there at the top of the stairs. But that there can be that gap in between the work you put in it from being, and just having a busy schedule to when the actual results come. And that we should be putting our self-esteem into our work habits, not necessarily in the instant results that come from that. So that was just really uplifting and encouraging, because a lot of times, when we plant these seeds, it takes a while for these seeds to be harvested. And so it's just kind of encouraging, to hear that and just to be faithful in that, be faithful in what we're doing.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys went to the back and read his 3 questions from the reader's guide, but the last one was, do you think that you most often tie your self-esteem to results or to your work habits and effort? And I was like, oh, I like the trophy at the end of the game. Like, I want the scoreboard to say that I won, and so, and then one thing, it's hard to not, very similar to what you said, Shawna. I mean, just when you don't see it, we talked about all the time, kind of just putting the blinders on and putting your head down. And then, we want to pick our head up and look and see, like, well, where are we at? And the harvest that I'm expecting is not coming as quickly as I would like it to come. And I don't have any control over that, unfortunately. I only have control over how many people I tell the story to. And so today, after church, I was just driving home to my house, and I was just praying and thinking about my business and venting a little bit of my frustration. The one person that always listens. And I just heard in my spirit, like, just stay the course. Just stay the course. Just stay the course. And I thought to myself, how many times, like, Melissa and Sunny today are driving to North Dakota, and I'm driving to North Dakota next week. Like, if I pick up my head in Chicago and I'm like, well, I'm not there yet. Like, not there. Like, never going to get there, And, well, you're a third of the way there. Like, if you just get back in the car and stay on the interstate and keep driving, like, you'll eventually get there. And so I just share that as an encouragement, because I grew up on a farm. I have helped on the farm during harvest season every year since I can remember. And, I laugh thinking about so many times, I think, in our own businesses, like, my dad and my brother plant their seeds at the end of April, the beginning of May, like that 3 to 4 week window. And then harvest comes sometime like mid to end of August for some of the crops. And then like end of September, but typically mostly like the first 2 weeks of October for other crops. And then there are some crops that you don't actually harvest until like the end of October, sometimes after it's frozen, the ground's frozen, which is crazy to me. But I thought about this when I was reading the book, is just like, not once ever has my dad like taken out the harvest equipment and gone out to the field in June or July and be like, well, let's just pull it up. Let's just see how it's coming. Like, let's just go out and like take a little sample and then we'll pull it up. And I thought to myself, like, the minute he pulls it out of the ground, like, it's dead. Like, he can't go and replant it. He can't be like, oops, just kidding. Go back in, and I think for us, that's what happens. Like, whether it's we stop reaching out to somebody because they're not responding, or we give up on a business partner because they haven't done what they said they're going to do, or we look up and go like, this doesn't work, or people are canceling, or I'm not getting any yeses, or whatever it is. And so we just start pulling those seeds out of the ground as they're just starting to sprout. And so when we do that, we kill them like they're dead, which they're not really dead. Like, they fortunately can get replanted. But anyway, that was just something that's kind of been speaking to me as I'm really learning this principle of plant. And I don't know if if Miss has shared this before on a call, but one of the gentlemen that comes every year to the Green Bay retreat, which is awesome, favorite event of the year. His name's Keith Kopner. He's got a company called Mentorfish, and you should totally look it up. It's awesome. But he told a story last year at Green Bay is when he was getting his business first started, and he was just kind of like, he spent a lot of time like taking really experienced and successful business people out to lunch or dinner or whatever, and just kind of picking their brain. And he kind of wanted to know, we didn't kind of want to know, he wanted to know, like, give me your secrets. What are you doing? And so he's sitting across the table from this gentleman, and I don't remember who the gentleman was or even what he did. But he said, okay, I'm ready. Like, give me the download. And he's like, he took out a piece of paper and a pen in the restaurant. He was like, I'm gonna write down everything that you say, like every point, every bullet point, I'm ready. And the guy sat back in his chair, and he's like, okay, here we go. Little step, 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 little step. And Keith is like, he just kept saying it. And I was like, what are you doing? And the guy's like, little step, little step. And he said it, he goes, I mean, it felt like he said it for like minutes, but he probably said it for like maybe 30 seconds or whatever. And then he's like, little step, big opportunity. Little step, little step, little step, little step, little step. And he just like, he did it for like 5 minutes, like to the point where Keith is like, shut up. But he's like, but I couldn't say shut up because I had asked him, like, share your big nugget, like share your big success. And so now I'm telling you, like, don't tell me what it is. But I just thought how true that is to our business, just so much of what we do, whether it's following a 10-day or 30-day challenge, or wanting to start a new habit, or do any of those things. Like, it's never like go from 0 to 60. It's just put one foot in front of the other, put one foot in front of the other, put one foot in front of the other. And, you know, as Rory talked about, when he was on his weight loss journey, like 8 months later, he just jumped on the scale and he lost 40 pounds. It's like, boom, like, where'd that happen? And so I don't know. That's just that little step thing, big opportunity that's been something that I have hung on to since I heard it last year. Cause it just makes so much sense. But I think we want to hear big step, big step, big step, big step. Awesome. Like, big step, you know, and that's not necessarily how life works, unfortunately. So. All right. Well, Shawna, you rocked it, my girlfriend. Like, thank you for what you shared. And what I would love is, I'll post the recording on the call. But if you wouldn't mind just sharing that SoundCloud that Janet did that you trained on, so that people can find it quick and easy, that would be awesome. So thank you just for your nuggets. Those were great. Those were really great and very applicable to what we were talking about. So thank you, ladies, for getting on. You know that you are appreciated and loved, not only by my sister, but just as, like, I think if people understood what we do and the culture and the culture of how we do it, they would be much more apt to say yes to Arbonne just for this, like, just for what this brings to their life. And so for us to be able to get on and just share life and share experiences is pretty cool. So thank you guys for being on. Thank you for participating. Thanks for sharing. It's always good to see your faces. Hopefully I know you got some value. Good gracious. I mean, I'm not going to say that while we're on the recording. Oh, I can. Just even hearing about my shower routine was worth it. Anyway, all right, I'm going to stop the recording.